There are countless occasions when an instructor wants to share a document with their class. When you're doing that online, the document has to be accessible. If you're creating the document from scratch, you'll follow the steps that I'm about to show you. It's really simple, and if you do it consistently, you'll find it really doesn't slow you down very much at all, but it's crucial that these documents are accessible. If you have a document you're using that you got from somewhere else that maybe is not accessible, that's sometimes a little bit trickier. But first, let's start off with what some basics are for creating a document. So I have a document up here, and I can see that it is basically in sans serif font. It's in a plain font. Now, if I chose a different font, clearly this is harder for you to read. However, a screen reader sometimes has difficulty even with any serif font. So to clean that up, we use a sans serif font like Arial, or I tend to use Century Gothic. Since I'm making this document, I'm also not going to put it on like a gray background, even if I think that's more interesting. I'm not going to use any odd colors. While you can use some colors, you need to have high contrast. So if you're using red or navy blue or something like that on a white background, it shouldn't be any problem. But understand, people who are listening to a reader aren't going to know what the color is of the font if you're using it for emphasis. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hierarchy. The hierarchy is a fashion for indexing the material that I have here. If it's a long document and I'm on a reader, I shouldn't have to go from the beginning to the end. I should be able to see what the different points are in the middle, and for that we use headings. Now I'm going to create these headings in a Word document, but then I'm going to save it in a portable document format, which is a PDF, because that allows it to be shown on a browser window, and it also crosses platforms. If you're seeing it on a Mac or you're seeing it on a PC, there should be no difference. So let's take a look at how to do those headings. What we want to make sure is that our normal font here is all the same, okay? And I've set my normal font to be Century Gothic, okay? And now if I hadn't, what I could do is I could come up here when that's selected and it's the correct font, I can right click this and I can say update this to match this selection. That's pretty handy because we're going to do just two levels. We're going to have a slightly larger heading and then a medium-sized heading and then normal font. That's all we're going to have. But what will happen is that will create an index when we save it as a PDF, and I'll show you those steps. So let's do this. It'll just take a second. My main heading is going to be, I've decided to make it a 14, so pretty big and bold-faced. And then I'm going to come up here, I'm going to right-click Heading 1. Update Heading 1 to match selection. So now, every time I use Heading 1, if I come down here and I want this to be Heading 1, all I need to do is come up here and tap that. It turns out that I would rather have this not be as large, because this is going to be one step down on my index. And what I'm going to have this is, I'm just going to have this heading as a 12-point font, and I'm going to make it bold. And then this is going to be my second level heading. So I'm going to right click that, update Heading 2 to match selection. So now I want this to be that same heading. So I'm going to choose this, and I'm going to say I would like it to be Heading 2. And I also want this to be Heading 2. And you can see on this side, the headings are listed here. So now we can see how it's going to break out when we turn this into a PDF. Now it could be a very long document, and you can see where this is even more important. But I can even put it like a Heading 3 if I had an inset here that I wanted to work with. Logically, going from large to small clearly makes the most sense. If you have numbers or you have bullets over here when you choose a heading, understand you're choosing to add that heading always with a bullet or a number. So always start with plain text, and there you go. Before I save it as a PDF, I also want to insert one image. The nice thing about inserting the image now is I can go ahead and put in the alternate text for that, which describes that image. Now that I have the picture in there, I can just come up here and simply right click the picture, easy as you please. And then I'm going to say I want to edit the alt text. And for alt text, what you want to do is make it a very simple declarative sentence of exactly what is in the image. You don't have to indicate this is a picture of or this is an image of, because the reader will clearly make that plain as it's going through the material. So I'll just come up here and indicate what we're seeing here. And if I do this every time I use an image, then it will always transfer to the PDF, and then it'll show up correct on my courses. I'm going to close this and then save again. And now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it as a PDF. Okay, to save this as a PDF, I'll come up here and I'm going to hit Save. Save as a PDF, but it's important I now go to Options. And once you set this up, your computer will probably remember this each time. But I want to make sure that I have Enable Accessibility, a reflow, and I want to have Create Bookmarks. And I only want to convert my Word headings to bookmarks. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit Save. So I want to go ahead and put that file on my course. And of course, when a student opens a PDF that you've uploaded as a file, it'll open in a new tab, and then it will show in the browser itself. Now in my browser, it so happens that I have a reader set up. So if I hit read aloud.
Great Expectations First Stage. Pip is an orphan, about 7 years old, who lives with his hot-tempered older sister and her kindly blacksmith husband Joe Gargery on the coastal marshes of Kent.
So the reader works very nicely, but students may also open it in Acrobat. So I open it up in Adobe Reader, and I have the headings here broken down into hierarchy so they can skim through that. If I want to hear how that works, I go Shift-Control-V.
Great Expectations. First Stage. Pip is an orphan.
Another way to check that out is to just come over here to View, and you can come down to Read Out Loud, and you can see your options right there. Anyways, so this will show you how to make a document that is accessible. And if we go back to the browser itself, after you've posted it, within about 4 or 5 minutes, it'll often give you the Ally score. And the Ally score says it is completely green, 100%. So if you're creating files that you need to share with your students, all one needs to do is go ahead and create some headings on there and organize it accordingly. Then save that document as a Word document, and then save it as a PDF using the options I showed you. Then it should be functional, and it should look great on the Ally rating. Thanks so much.